The nationwide unemployment rate sits at 3.8% after the United States added 336,000 jobs in September. But this good news could cost people more at the store. A local economist at Northern Illinois University says more job hiring forces companies to increase wages to compete for available workers. As they raise wages, that cost is passed down to consumers in the form of higher prices. Carl Campbell with NIU says people could cut back spending because of inflation or if the Federal Reserve increases interest rates.
That raises the cost of borrowing money. That discourages people from borrowing money, so they can, if they're borrowing less, they therefore spend less on goods and services, and that sort of causes the job market to cool down.